Clear learning targets help students understand that the assignment is the means and the learning is the end. There are two strategies of assessment that CHAPAS includes in this chapter. It's providing a clear and understandable vision of the learning target, and the second is using examples and models of strong and weak work. Learning targets can take many forms. They can be content standards, Common Core state standards, benchmarks, and objectives. They can range in size, and some people have to make them on their own, or have them set by a curriculum. Knowledge level learning targets is the first of the 4 types of learning targets. This one has to deal with knowing from memory, procedural knowledge, and conceptual understanding. But it doesn't mean that these are necessarily low-level learning targets. There can be higher-level learning targets dealing with knowledge as well. Reasoning level learning targets have to deal with the thought processes students are to learn to execute. So this is things such as predicting, inferring, comparing, and evaluating. Things that have to do with thinking. Skill level targets have to deal with real-time demonstration or physical performances. They can be confusing regarding problem-solving skills, reading, and thinking, things that are done, but they're not necessarily done out loud all the time. Product level targets have to deal with the creation of a product, and the evaluation of learning will be the qualities of the product. We often have students create to demonstrate other types of learning targets, in which case what should be evaluated is intended learning and not the qualities. Clear learning targets guide us as students and teachers. They determine how we track achievement and ultimately grades. It guides instruction, assignments, formative assessments, and summative assessments as well. Selected response assessments. These are a good choice for knowledge level targets, but also for a number of patterns of reasoning. They include multiple choice, matching, true or false, and fill in the blank. There is one right or best answer, and there's more wrong answers than right answers. Written responses have 2 types. There's a short answer, which might be something like a ticket out of a door, or like a respond to a classmate. And then there's the more formal, extended written response. These are a good match for knowledge targets and reasoning targets, but they're not good for skill or product targets. Performance assessments have 2 parts, the task and the rubric. They're based on observation and judgment. Use these with caution for knowledge and reasoning targets, but they're used for product and skill targets. Personal communication can be used formally or informally. It can be used informally for formative purposes or formally for summative purposes. It can yield accurate information about achievement of knowledge and reasoning targets. Deconstructing complex content standards. With this, it's identifying the lesson-level learning targets that form the scaffolding for the overall attainment of the content standard. The first step in this is classifying the content standard according to a target type. Making targets clear to students, sharing straightforward targets as is. This works well for many knowledge targets and for straightforward procedural skill targets. You should share the purpose of the lesson in the beginning of the lesson and throughout the lesson, making sure students know what the purpose of the lesson is. Converting targets to student-friendly language is well suited for reasoning targets. For some content standards, though, defining all the terms will derail the learning. So it's important to make sure that the interpretations match the intent of the content standards. Using rubrics to communicate learning targets. For this, a rubric must be diagnostic, and its content derives from the learning target. A good rubric answers the question, where am I going? Rubrics that are descriptive in their language do a better job of yielding information. In co-creating criteria with students, you should ask the students what they think constitutes quality. You should share some examples of strong and weak work, and you should compile a brainstorm list to decide on your criteria. When to share the learning target. You can share it several ways. As part of the anticipatory set for the lesson or unit, so today or this unit will cover this, unfolding over several weeks, or as part of an activity which reveals the target. Check to see that students can articulate the learning target when you check for awareness. You can use exit slips or short answers and things like that to check for mastery of the learning target. Use examples and models of strong and weak work. You should use a range of quality, but you don't want students in the class currently as examples of what constitutes good and bad work. If you want to use students' work as an example, you should have them volunteer. Some students could feel harmed or uncomfortable. By making the learning targets clear, we can ensure that students understand the purpose of learning. It can also increase student confidence and chances that students will achieve mastery. We should provide a clear and understandable vision of the learning target and use examples and models of strong and weak work.